there? Good deal. Awesome. All right. Hey, I love on Easter to hear Easter resurrection testimonies. And what I mean by a resurrection testimony is a resurrection testimony does two things. One, it lets us know that Jesus truly is alive and he's in the life-changing business still today. Do you believe that?
Yes.
It's good to believe that. It's good to hear somebody whose life is a testimony of that. And so I want to introduce you to somebody that I've met recently. His name is Mark Baca. Mark, come on up on the stage. Y'all give him a hand, all right? Awesome. Now, Mark is a part of the New Hope Fellowship group that is getting started. Come on. Anybody here from New Hope tonight? Awesome. New Hope and Parkside are working together for revitalization over on their campus. A couple of weeks ago, they had 60 folks in worship there, all right? So God's at work over at Living Hope. Mark is a leader there. He's part of the worship team. He's also works with the students over there, a great young man. I got to hear his story the other day. I said, dude, you got to share this with our people, all right? Mark, man, first of all, welcome to Parkside. Glad you're here. Man, tell us about your family, all right?
Well, I have 3 beautiful daughters. 2 of them are over doing their thing right now. One of my daughters is here. She's 14 years old, Natalie. And then also my beautiful wife of 16 years, Crystal, is also here.
Good job. Awesome, awesome. All right, man. So I want our folks to hear your story. First of all, like, you had a pretty rough background, right? Tell me about growing up and kind of how things went for you, man.
So I kind of grew up in the church. I was baptized at 9 years old. But I was baptized on a belief of you could lose your salvation. You had to earn your way to heaven. So it was kind of rough.
Okay. And how did that translate into some of the things that started happening to you when you were a kid, man?
Man, I fell out of, I guess, love with God, with the church. I didn't care about going to church. It was rough.
Okay. And so like you thought you had to work for it, right? And then some stuff started going down with your dad and stuff like that. Man, tell them about that.
So, at the age of 13, my dad went to prison for rape. He raped my sister. And then at that point, my whole world kind of just started to fall apart.
And so what did you do, man? How did you respond to that, all of that chaos in your life?
Man, I just started looking for different guidance. My mom, I always believed growing up that a mother can raise her son so far, but the father is supposed to do the rest. And I would no longer have that father. So kind of turning to the streets, I guess, for guidance. My mom started dating. One of the guys that she would date sold drugs. He brought in the money and kind of shouldered me, man, and just kind of showed me the street life and kind of what it was about. And at this point in my life, I thought this was something that I needed. I needed that father figure, and I guess I was finally able to continue that or to get that.
Gotcha. And that got you in a lot of trouble, you told me. And then, but still, you got married, started a family. How did all that translate into family life, man?
Man, so it was still rough. In 2006, I met my wife, Crystal. Before this, I had been in trouble, and I had been in and out of jail for just, petty stuff and whatnot. And I met her, and then a year after,
Preach it, brother.
and then a year after we got together, I lost my best friend to gun violence. Then at this point, my world just started to fall apart. I hated everybody. I hated everything, and I hated everything.
So what was the thing that started turning around? Because Crystal, she wasn't good with that, the way it was going and that kind of stuff. What happened next?
So, I was so bad, I started years of just abuse, mental abuse with my wife, Crystal, physical abuse. I was cheating on her. I was in a bad spot. I was in a bad place. So in 2013, she kicked me out. She wanted better for herself. She wanted better for our daughters. And at this moment in time, I didn't get it. I didn't understand why. One way that my father would get his point across growing up was through physical abuse. And I witnessed it, and he got his point across. And so I figured that this was maybe an outlet for me to get my point across was through physical abuse and violence as well.
So when Crystal, you kept trying to reach out to her though, even though she kicked you out, right? And she told you something that really kind of changed the game and that God used, because like you said, you met him when he was younger, but it's like the church taught you about a different kind of Jesus, not the real Jesus, right? But he was still chasing you. What did Crystal say that changed and flipped the script for you, man?
So living elsewhere, I had gone a couple of months without talking to her. And at that moment of not talking to her, I realized that she was serious, that she wasn't playing any games. So I'd reach out to her, no response. Finally, a couple weeks later, she reached out, to me, and we talked, but it wasn't the conversation that I wanted to hear. She wanted a divorce. I knew at that moment that I had to fight for my family. My family was super important to me, my kids, my wife, and I needed her back. She finally said, look, if you want us back, if you want your family back, then go to church and find the Lord. Selfish, maybe, but I agreed that I would go to church because I wanted them back. Not that I cared about going to church, or at this point who God was, because I had been down a life of that already. But to get them back, that I would go to church. So I started researching churches in the area, just because I knew that I wanted a church not like my younger days or like I was raised, growing up. So the only church that reached out to me in the area was Cottonwood Creek Church, Denison. And obviously I said, well, this is it. This is the church that reached out to me, so I'll get up and I'll go. So on a Sunday morning, I got up and I got the directions to the church and I went. And as I'm, you may not know the streets, but I'm going on Sunset and then I'm turning on Bluebonnet and I see a blue SUV out in the parking lot. Not too many like it, somebody that I thought I knew. So my heart starts racing and I've got crazy thoughts just running through my head. And I pull up to this SUV and it was my wife, Crystal, sitting in the car. Not only was it her sitting in the car, she was in there with our daughter who was having a meltdown at church. Not immediately rolling down the window because I had to gain my thoughts. Finally, after a few seconds, I rolled down the window and she said, hey, what are you doing here and how did you find me? And guys, this was God at work in my life. He guided my steps to that very place. She said, well, look, let's go in church, let's sit down, let's fellowship, we'll talk about all this craziness afterwards. So we go into church, we sit down together, and the sermon this Sunday was on a godly marriage. This was all God. Not only that, but 2 weeks from that, they would be starting up a life group on what a godly marriage looks like.
So you were chasing after Crystal, but God was chasing after you, and you found him, and your life has been totally transformed since you started seeking him first and putting life in order according to him, right? Like, how are you different now than what you were?
Man, I understand now that I don't have to earn my way. That was done on the cross. I have a new love for who he is. I guess a new respect for him. I want to, I tell people all the time that I am now the passenger and he is the driver. Wherever he leads, I will always follow. He's amazing. I love him. And since I know who he is and about him now and the real Jesus, it's led me to lead my family in a way that he expects me to.
That's so good, man. Is Jesus still in the life-changing business, man?
Absolutely.
Come on, that's good, man. Y'all give it up for Mark, all right? So good.
man. And thank you so much for sharing this testimony with us today, man. And we're just reminding us all, man, Jesus is not done in being in the life-changing business. He lives and he's changing lives, man. Thanks for being testimony of that, man. God bless you.